Folks, we're going to start out with the oysters on the half shell, and more importantly, we're going to go with the mignonette sauce. Now, you want to start this sauce about 3 to 4 hours, if not days in advance, because it's going to take time for the shallots to intermignonette with the sauce, all right? We're going to start with some shallots, and you can see I've got some shallots right here, and what we're going to do is cut those shallots up, not too aggressively, but you want to get it in. Ultimately, what we're going to do is we're going to put these shallots in the blender, and you're going to go for about a ½ cup of shallots. Now, if you don't know how to measure ½ cup, what I want you to do is take a Coca-Cola can, right, and pour out about a ½ cup of Coca-Cola. And that's the best way to measure shallots. Right, I've got these cut up, and I'm going to put them into the food processor. There's a bunch of different settings. You can grind it, chop it, or pulse it. I really have never known the difference between any of those settings. So either grind, pulse it, or chop it, but that's going to be the best way to go here with the shallots. Make sure the top fits snugly on there. Got two settings right there. Got chop and got grind, all right? You could do chop or you could do grind. Chop or grind. Truth be told, I don't know the difference between chopping and grinding. Looking at the Cuisinart, I saw chopping was going one way, grinding was going the other. Two terrific directions. Now, I'm going to remove the shallots from the Cuisinart container, and you want to make sure you've got some type of spoon or spooning device, and you want to take out the sharp blade so you don't cut yourself with the sharp blade, and you want to put that aside there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these shallots into this dish here. And this is a preparation dish, all right? And all the good chefs have a preparation dish. It just sort of sits aside, and it's a preparation dish. I'm getting a phone call right now, probably from my producers, and they're not happy with how the live show's going right now. But they're not going to be eating this food later on. We're going to be eating it. So I say buzz off. Alright, now I've got the shallots into the dish there, and we're going to move on to the next feature of the mignonette sauce. Next thing what we're going to do is we're going to add our shallots that I've got right here into a non-reactive glass bowl, Pyrex, something like that. Make sure it's non-reactive. Now I don't seem to have that, or I don't know where it is in the kitchen, so I'm going to use a regular old drinking glass right there. You know, make sure you don't think it's apple juice later on and drink that. So we're going to put the shallots right in there, in that non-reactive drinking glass right there. Gorgeous, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to add rice vinegar. Now I use this rice vinegar, which is by American, and it's already seasoned, which means it's got salt and sugar already in it. You don't need to add that yourself. We're going to go with about a ½ cup worth. Now I don't have measuring utensils, so I'm just going to have to use my eyes. Now I love rice vinegar, so that's probably more than a ½ cup, which is fine. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this Golden Mountain vinegar. This is white vinegar, and no worries, same here, about a ½ cup. We're going to put that in there. You can always look for this. It's got that yellow feature rainbow on there. Good. Costs $1.59 in an Oriental market. We're going to go here also with about a ½ cup. Going to have to eye that one. I don't like this type of vinegar quite as much, so we're going to eye that. I'm having trouble with the top here. You might have your own kind of trouble with the top. So then you just take the whole... Well, isn't that a doozy? I'm having real problems with this top here. You never see this on a cooking show. Look at that. Top clean off of there. Didn't even work. Going to have to readjust this.
At this point in time, I've really got struggles going on with this top. I can't get it off with my teeth. I can't get it off with a knife. I tried a spoon. I tried that fork, you see. Spinning it around. Nothing's working.
So I actually had to manhandle the top of that white vinegar. You remember when you was in the line at the lunchroom in the cafeteria, and you had the chocolate milk container, and you tried to open it, but for some reason it didn't open, and then you tried to open it on the other side? Had the same thing here. Again, folks, we're going for a ½ cup. And that's about a ½ cup right there. Again, I've eyed it because I don't have the proper utensils. Now folks, the recipe that I'm using calls for finely crushed white peppercorns. I wasn't able to find them in the local market or the market off in the distance on the other edge of town. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to adjust. So let's see. Maybe we'll go with a dash of pepper. Alright? Always Mediterranean sea salt. That's going to release some flavors. Just a pinch, not too much. And there you go. Bam, as they say in some of the other shows. And that's Mediterranean sea salt right there. Right? And then what I've got is standard black pepper. Now, for those of you out there that are chefs true and true through to the heart, just like myself, you might cringe at the thought of using standard black pepper, but we're going to give that a go for seasoning. Great, a little bit of that gets you a long way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a fork and we're going to stir that mixture together. Look at that, I'm stirring it together, and this is going to be a mignonette sauce. It's going to be really fantastic, and we're going to cover that up and we're going to put it in the refrigerator and we're going to let it marinate, let it settle in for a few hours. Alright, that's the mignonette sauce. Alright folks, we're ready to jump over to our oyster preparation. Remember, we've got a couple of things going on. For starters, I've been drinking since the start of this show, so I don't know how clearly I'm thinking right now, but I can tell you this much. I've got two different kinds of oysters going on. We've got West Coast oysters and we've got East Coast oysters, alright? Well, West Coast oysters are from Washington State. Now, most of you oyster lovers out there know that oysters come with a fancy name. Let's go ahead and call these oysters Mignonette oysters, alright, from the West Coast. That's not a real name, I made that up, but I couldn't really get a real name out of them. Our East Coast oysters, I've got a smaller batch right here, warmer waters of course, and let's go ahead and call those East Coast oysters, because they've got a real name also, but I have no idea what that real name is. Now what we've got to do is we've got to do two things. First thing we've got to do is we've got to scrub those oysters down. Now I have not the proper wire brush for oyster scrubbing, so what I'm going to use is the back of this barbecue pit scrubber right there. You can see that, got good fine metal bristles, and we're going to scrub the excess dirt off of the oysters. The next thing that we're going to use is a proper oyster implement right there for shelling the oysters. Now I went to the store today to buy this thing. I was thinking of using a screwdriver or an end of a hammer or a nail or something like that, but at the end of the day I broke down and decided to use this implement to cut open the oysters. We're going to use a cloth as well right here to hold on to the oysters, and we're going to get that dish ready for you. Going to break open the oysters. Remember, when you break open the oysters, save the juice on the inside, and then we're going to lay them out on a platter. Let's get these oysters ready. So folks, what I've done here in the next step is I've shucked the oysters. Now remember, we've got two sets of oysters. We've got East Coast oysters and we've got West Coast oysters. The East Coast oysters, I've come to find out, are from Apalachicola. That's the Gulf, that's warm waters. The West Coast oysters are from Washington, and I found out no more information about them. I got to tell you, just by looking at them, the West Coast oysters are right here. I've got more of them because I had a feeling that they were going to be a bit better. And I've only got 5 little Apalachicola oysters. They're right here and they look fine. The oysters that I found that were slightly open as opposed to closed. Your oyster should be closed like this when you get it. If it's open and it's talking to you, you got to throw it out. Alright? I had to throw out a couple of oysters and that was bad news. You know what I'm saying? So here we've got the oysters, and this is a plate of the Washington State cold water oysters, and they look terrific. And here is a plate of your Apalachicola oysters, and those guys right there also look very good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap them up in plastic wrap, and I'm going to put them in the refrigerator when we're ready for serving. At that point in time, I'm going to lay them down on a bed of ice. If you've got rock salt for your shotgun, you can put that there as well. And I'm going to serve them up with the mignonette sauce that we've already made, alright? Thank you.